Titans, go!
Hello again, Titans fans. Welcome back to Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, here in the basement of Titans Tower, ready to talk the latest episode of Titans with my friend, my longtime fellow Titan talker, Jesse Jackson. How you doing, Jesse?
I'm good, Charles. Yeah, not a lot of people know that in addition to the kitchen and the living area and the rooms, and the very bottom of Titan Tower is a small podcast studio.
Yeah, go figure. And there seems to be like a lot of comic books here.
A lot of
comic
books.
Yes. And a bunch of like Doctor Who action figures and Flash action figures and Funko figures and all kinds of stuff. So and a washer and dryer as well.
Yeah.
Go figure. But
Yes.
but anyway, so that's your rundown of the Titans Tower basement, I guess. So here, welcome back everybody, episode 39, and we're going to talk ghosts today. The third episode of Titans season 2 just came out a few days ago on September 20th, 2019. Written by Tom Pabst, as in Tom Pabst Blue Ribbon. New writer to the show. Hasn't written for the show before. I'm not really familiar with him either. Directed by Kevin Tancherowin, who I'm familiar with because of doing the Fandom Zone podcast. Friend of the show, Karen Lindsay, and I had talked a lot about the episodes that he directed of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and also a bunch of CW, DC Universe shows for the Berlantiverse. So here he makes his Titans debut, and thought he did a decent job. And looking forward to getting your take on this one, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about it too. I'm looking at Tom's IMDb page and
pulling up the CV.
Yes, a couple episodes of The Sinner.
Curriculum vitae.
One episode of Counterpart. Nothing that stands out for me.
Right.
Counterpart was an interesting series, so that's. But he only wrote one episode of that. So yeah.
Didn't they pull the plug on that after 2 seasons?
Yes, they did.
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to talking to you about this one. I think it took a small step backwards, but I think it kind of needed to. I'm not complaining. I I felt like it a little bit backwards, but still enjoyable. How about you? I saw you nodding your head.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I mean, I don't think this was horrible by any means. And it's not a major downgrade by any means, I don't think. It's
I don't think so either.
This is more of a bringing everybody back together and kind of setting things up for down the road episode.
Yeah. And I think this is where writers and a TV runner are damned if they do, damned if they don't. If they had not done all this and we had just cut to them being there, we'd like, what happened? Why didn't they tell us this part of the story? So yeah, I felt like this felt like a setup episode and for something a lot more important down the road. So for what it was, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I think so too. Not a lot of new guest cast. We basically just get to know some of our new characters a little better. So of course we've got Chelsea Zhang as Rose Wilson. We've got Esai Morales as Deathstroke, who returns for this episode. Michael Mosley as Dr. Light. And that Dr. Light Deathstroke pairing was interesting, which we'll talk about, obviously, here in a minute.
Absolutely.
And then we get to know Robbie Jones's new character, Faddei, excuse me, as he's
Hmm.
called in the episode, Faddei, and some very interesting connections with Starfire, Coriander,
Yes.
Princess Coriander, as we all
Yeah.
know, and looking forward to talking about that as well. So, so,
Absolutely.
so your general overview was like, this is an okay episode, but it didn't, it, it wasn't a wow episode like last time.
Yeah, I think, and this is going to be, as they say, damning with faint praise, or kind of. This was the worst episode so far of this season.
You think so?
And
Okay.
yeah, and when I say worst, I just mean
Yeah.
it just if I'm grading this one, and I will be at the end of the
Right.
episode, we both will. It will not be as a high a number as we've been giving to other ones,
Okay. Well,
at least for me.
that's kind of what we do here. So yeah, to go figure.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
So I want to break this down into four topics this week.
Okay.
Um, First topic, I don't have a theme this week
Okay.
because yours truly was up late last night. My Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast co-host, Zan Sprouse and I, we went out to go see the movie Mulholland Drive
Oh,
at a
nice.
midnight screening. So I'm kind of dragging a bit. I'm running on like less than 5 hours sleep. So,
And Charles was
but it was
nice
fun.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
Charles was nice enough to talk an hour earlier for Dallas Cowboys schedules. During the fall, we are, just to pull the curtain back, we have a fluid recording schedule
Yes,
based
we do.
on Cowboy schedules.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I always appreciate that.
Yeah, football
kindness.
season comes around, things get a little interesting as far as our schedule.
Yes, they
So,
do.
so bear with me if I'm less than my exuberant self. I'll try my best to keep the energy level going. But
Well, to keep it on football
yes,
terms, even 3/4 of a Charles
yeah.
is better than most co-hosts.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. So maybe we'll bring in the backup co-host when I for the fourth quarter. We'll find out. So topic number one, I want to talk about. Let's talk about the original Titans.
Mhm.
So I want to talk about Dick and Donna and Hank and Dawn in this segment because the primary thrust of this episode is Donna, Hank, and Dawn returning to Titan's Tower, and obviously there's a lot of history and a lot of uncomfortable emotional baggage with that. And I want to get your thoughts on these four characters and their reaction to Dick essentially taking in a new team of Titans and reopening Titan's Tower and everything that falls within all that. So what's your take on the original Titans in this episode?
So several things to unpack there.
Yeah.
First, before I forget, I think this episode contributed to, without saying it, but it gave us more proof that your theory that Deathstroke killed Aqualad, I think that was
It seems more than likely, doesn't it, at this
yeah,
point?
it feels that's where they're building to.
Right.
And I want to say I thought the interactions between the original Titans were pretty close to perfect. I loved everything from Donna, you changed the passcode,
Mm-hmm.
to her being uncomfortable walking in. I don't know.
She has this flashback of a birthday party,
Yes.
and I'm guessing it's probably for Aqualad.
Yeah.
But
And
we'll hopefully we'll find out that later. But it was just a very brief tease if you caught it.
yes. I spent a lot of time growing up at my grandparents' house in Rose Pine, Louisiana.
Nice.
And after they had both died, my uncle ended up inheriting the house and moving in. And for the longest time, I could not go to my grandparents' house because the idea of seeing it not the way they had it was really tough on me.
Too many bad
And
memories, that sort of
yeah,
thing.
or just I,
It
how
it didn't
can you-
feel right.
It didn't feel right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I loved that feeling. I I like the idea when they said same rooms, and I kept expecting Dick to go, nope, nope, the new people moved into your rooms, but obviously there's enough rooms that, you know, you didn't need to see it, but I could just imagine. Nope, can't have that room. You know, you can just see Gar going, hey, how about nope,
Yeah.
can't have those.
So do you
You
think
know,
Dick was specifically held those rooms, hoping the original Titans might come back at some point?
um, so there is a scene in Castle,
Hmm.
the TV show that Karen Lindsay, former our co-host and always,
Yes.
uh, when we used to do the Castle podcast, and there was a scene where Rick Castle, Nathan Fillion played poker with other writers, and one of the writers who was very active, and I'm going to feel bad, I don't remember. It was a real writer.
Okay.
He died. And when they showed a scene, someone tried to sit in his chair and I go, nope, that's his chair. For a year, we don't let anyone sit in that chair. And so I picture whether he thought they were coming back or not, it's almost like a retired jersey if I mix my metaphors.
Okay.
Nope, that's Donna's room. Nope,
Got it.
that's Hank's
I
room.
don't want that touched.
Yeah, I don't want that touched. So that's how I view it as.
That's not. I
So,
mean, I could see that. I could see that.
yeah.
But part of me would kind of wonder, like, well, Dick Grayson being Dick Grayson, would he be planning? You know,
And I think that's just as I think that's just as
we
a
don't
good
know.
theory. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't know, but it's kind of
And
interesting.
and we've talked about this a lot, Charles.
Hmm.
One of the most frustrating story tropes is people not talking to each other and therefore making a conflict or a storyline that could be resolved if just character A talked to character B.
Looking at you, CW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my other things is I'm okay with a little tension, but I also am very unhappy with people who should be friends and should
Share.
having this anger.
Yeah.
And the scene where Dick and Hank, while Hank's putting, kind of banding his wound,
Yeah.
and Dick apologizes and Hank's like, look, I was out of line. You saved a bus. I just was angry. That friendship, that brotherhood, that love was very clear. And I went, yeah. See, you can argue, but you still have that underlying love for each other. And
I was glad they got that scene because
I am really glad that scene.
most of the interactions between Dick and Hank so far have been Hank being jealous about Dick having a previous thing for Dove,
Yes.
and Hank feeling possessive about that.
Right.
So here, like, they had butted heads earlier where Hank was mad because of Jason making that big TV splash
Right.
and putting a target on their backs, as Hank put it, and bringing them back into the superhero fold, forcing them to come back, and then to turn around after he's injured and to see Dick reaching out saying, "Look, trying to be the bigger man. Hey, I'm sorry for what happened," and Hank actually accepting that and saying, "No, look, he kind of apologized."
Yeah, he was mad right away.
It was very adult.
We had Dr. Light. You had him, and Dick going, he was going to he was going to hurt that bus, and in the anger, Hank goes, but you know what he's capable of doing. Once again, proof that we think Garth was killed by him.
Right.
And then to go, you saved a bus. You did the right thing.
Right.
Yes, I agree with you that I'm so glad that scene was there because, let's face it, if I'm speaking DC Universe,
Yeah.
Legion of the Superheroes and Titans are groups that are family. That is the reason why you and I loved the Titans, because they had a family. They had that feeling. Unlike the X-Men that
Well, the
kind of
X-Men,
always built in.
well, the original group of new X-Men,
Yeah.
they were a lot like a family.
Yes, good point. I was thinking of the core kind of, it seems like, Wolverine and
Yeah.
everything always going back, but the Titans was always that way. So yes, I was very happy to see that. It was good to see them back. It's kind of I love the scene where Dick's like, "Can we have the room?" Just once, Charles. I want to do that in real life. I want to be able to say, "Can we have the room?"
Yes.
And then
And people walk out and actually give you
Yeah.
the room. Yes.
and then and I love Jason kind of thinking he's kind of better than everyone else, and like,
Yeah, we'll
you
talk
too,
about Jason. Yeah, we'll talk about
Okay,
Jason here
good.
in their second
Yeah.
segment. But
So I know we're not going to get it, and it's probably just fanboyish of me, but would you just love a flashback episode of them, in their young, Teen Titan costumes, and we're seeing them
yes.
fighting Mr. Twister or somebody?
Oh, you mean like really young, as opposed
Yeah.
to just like what happened a few years ago when the team broke up.
Or even just any time before that, when
Yeah.
they were still young and exciting. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Now, I like the scene between Dick and Donna in the kitchen, where she's making tea and Dick comes in, and she kind of this is where she kind of confronts him about why he reopened Titan's Tower,
Mm-hmm.
and she kind of challenges him a little bit, and this is where we kind of get a little glimpse into the really bad memories that Donna has of this place, and presumably they're hinting at least that she and Aqualad had some kind of relationship, and
Yeah.
then his death has obviously affected her the most.
Yeah, and I like that kind of twist
Right.
that
I mean, that's
they
I'm just
had
basing
that.
that on the trailers and what we've
Yeah.
seen, and what little nuggets they're dealing out here and there so far. But
Yeah.
I thought that was good, and Dick meanwhile is insisting that things have changed, I've changed, and then she kind of calls him out on it and goes something along the lines of, like, okay, well, you burned your Robin costume, so who are you now? And then she makes this comment like, well, you seem like a camp counselor.
Yeah, and so I don't know.
And it's like, and then she warns about, Deathstroke. Like, Deathstroke's out there, and we need something more than a camp counselor to face him.
Yeah, and I like the idea that they're saying that he picks up strays,
Right.
though I don't understand. I guess their thought is maybe he was the driving force between the original Titans,
Mm-hmm.
that he kind of said, "Hey, we should hang together. We should do stuff."
Right.
But now this version of the Dick Grayson does seem to be having, when he was in Detroit
Yes.
and he was the detective, it appeared he was very solo-ish. Remember, because we got that one, his partner.
He didn't want a
unfortunately-
partner. Yeah.
Yeah, that only lasted 2 episodes. Shame on that act. I hate for that actress.
Amy Rohrback. Yeah. The
Yeah.
character, Amy Rohrback.
yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't seem to be picking up strays, but now, he does seem to be able to.
Well, he was all angry and resentful,
Yeah.
and probably a lot of that anger, as it seems to be playing out so far, it seems to have stemmed from his feeling of failure as the leader of the Titans, and allowing Aqualad to die, maybe,
Yeah, and Charles,
and things falling apart with the other Titans.
and we're certainly probably reading into stuff more than we should, but hey, that's our job as a podcaster.
Exactly.
Is that
Makes for a fun discussion, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like in the spirit of lighting a candle instead of cursing the darkness. he's saying, I had trauma growing up. You know, Bruce did the best he could, but maybe I can help this next generation to have a little easier way of it.
Right.
You know, because of the mistakes and lessons I learned, what worked and didn't work with Hawk and Dove and Aqualad and Wonder Girl, maybe I can turn around and in this new team help things to be a little better.
Right. But he's also keeping secrets from them, if you notice, because he's not sharing with the new Titans what happened with Deathstroke and what happened with Aqualad. Anytime they try to bring it up, Dick quickly shuts that down hard. And Donna's the one who's saying, look, you know, if these kids are going to be here, they need to know what the deal is. You need to tell them about this.
Yeah. And you wonder, so part of me wants to know, how do you not, wouldn't this be pretty common knowledge that this happened?
Oh, you mean like in the, you know, on the papers or the
news,
internet?
Yes,
and you would think, right? You would think, but I guess it all depends on how the events went down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if it was like off in some secret base in the middle of nowhere,
right?
Maybe they just never talked about it.
Yeah, maybe.
But you would think people would wonder, hey, where's Aqualad these days?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I think that's something that maybe the writers should address. Just saying.
I think so too.
I think that should be addressed. Like, is this public knowledge or not? And if not, why not?
You know, and you can tell
that's
because
a good point.
How much we talked about this first topic.
Yeah, I know. We need to get moving probably.
Yeah, really enjoyed seeing the the original Titans in this kind of dynamic. I think they're doing it really well.
Yeah, and I just wanted to touch on Dove really quickly, Dawn.
Yes.
For someone who was off having her own nighttime superhero adventures, she's very reluctant about this whole coming back to Titan's Tower thing.
Yes,
she's worried that Hank is going to slide right back into becoming a hero, and then the addiction that comes right along with it. And she's very eager for them to go back to Wyoming and get back to their horse ranch.
Yeah, because he's saying, I don't know if this is working, and she's kind of, well, it was for a while. And I thought that was an interesting discussion too, because is Hank is fighting addiction,
right?
And you know, he makes the joke, nothing that a fifth of Doers wouldn't fix, or 20 Advil,
right?
You know, and I think I just like
he's trying to show how he's trying to show how he's comfortable with it.
Yeah, and he's trying. I mean, he has two addictions he's fighting. He's addicted to the suit,
to the crime
and
fighting,
the painkillers. Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, there's the adrenaline rush that comes with the crime fighting, but also because of the beating his body takes. Yeah. Because he doesn't have powers really in this version. He manages that kind of like Daredevil does with a lot of Vicodin and and whatever painkillers and things to numb the pain that he can find. So yeah, it's this interesting dilemma, and you know, and Hank's talking about how great it is to be back, and you know, it feels like I should be here. And Dawn's kind of reminding him, well, that's kind of, you know, like, that's how addicts, you know, act, is that, well, everything, you know, it could be different now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out, obviously.
All
right, topic number 2. Let's move on.
Yes.
We talked about the original Titans in topic number 1. Let's talk about the new Titans in topic number 2. So Jason, Gar, Rachel, and Rose. Let's talk about in this segment.
All right, so my first complaint about the episode is, and I guess this should be expected, but I truly disliked how Jason reacted to Rachel's dark side or whatever
Yeah,
demons.
yeah, her soul self
Um,
or whatever,
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
that is. Yeah,
Um, I
calling her a freak, an effing
yeah,
freak, and basically not comforting her. Now, granted,
yeah,
she just tried to kill him.
absolutely. So I'm giving a slightly,
You give a
um,
little bit of a
yeah,
pass on that one, I think.
yeah, but I just, and maybe they just 3 months isn't enough to have a bond. And we do know that Jason is a hothead, and that's one of the reasons why Bruce wanted him there. I just felt a little disappointed because last episode he seemed to show some maturity, and this I felt like was a step backwards.
Yes, I
So
I
that's my
agree.
complaint.
I agree, and that's it is he is being a little inconsistent here.
Yeah.
Now he because we see that his frustration. He's getting the problem is though he's getting frustrated
Yes, I
because
agree.
Dick doesn't want like he's a if you notice anytime anything remotely close to going after supervillains or what have you, Jason is right there in the costume. Nobody else is like that.
Oh
Jason
yeah,
is.
he's there.
He's already like right there in the Robin suit, ready to
Hmm.
go out. And he's so eager and so like he wants to go out. He wants to show Dick that everything he can do what needs to be done so he can get back to Gotham City.
Hmm.
And Dick is going, no, look, this is the original Titans business. You stay here with the other kids. Like,
Hmm.
the adults are talking, go back to the kids' table,
That's
Jason.
exactly what it was, and I do understand how that frustrates him.
Right,
Because he spent at least a couple of years being, Batman's, partner.
right.
He's quote unquote Robin, and so all of a sudden he does feel like he was sitting at the adult table. Now that he's at the kids table, which is a great,
Metaphor,
analogy you're
yeah.
giving, metaphor. I could see the frustration on him. I get it all. I just kind of was a little disappointed in Jason.
Yeah, well, and that's understand, and you're supposed to
Yeah,
be. I
yeah, I
think. I
think
think.
so.
I think you are supposed to be. Jason, he and Dick naturally butt heads. The frustration starts to build, and this is again after the of Rachel almost killing him,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of like things snowballing a little bit.
Hmm.
Jason feels that Dick is in his way, not the other way around, and he clenches his fist, and Gar notices, and it's like, Jason, don't.
Yeah.
And he still tries to punch Dick out, and Dick
Yes.
in this, I mean, just a fantastic scene, takes him down in a split second. I
So,
mean, slams him down fast and hard.
and then he's all, um, Jason's all, embarrassed.
Right,
But I was so happy about that because, um, and there's another scene, I think when we talk about
right.
Dr. Light and Deathstroke, I want to talk about that. But it was good to see because, yes, you know, you may be good, Jason, but you're not Dick Grayson, original Robin, good.
You don't have Dick's experience for one thing,
Right. Yeah.
and
And
your
so,
temperament isn't right.
exactly. Yeah.
Now, Jason tries to get Gar in another attempt to try to prove himself.
Yes.
He manipulates Gar,
Yeah.
and
And you know what?
you
And
know,
I'm going to give Gar a pass.
yeah.
Gar tried and tried and tried, and then he's like, okay, we'll see.
Well, that's the funny part is he realized that Jason was manipulating him, and he, like Jason's going to Gar saying, "Look, okay, we found where Doctor Light is. Hey, let's just do reconnaissance, and then we'll call Dick
Yeah.
first thing. Promise, pinky swear."
Hmm.
And Gar kind of nods along, and then goes, "No, no, I know what you're doing here." and
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to happen. And then, not 2 seconds later, he capitulates. Gar does,
Yeah.
and they end up going off by themselves, where you know they're going to get into trouble.
Oh, you know.
Like, and then you would think they would at least go like, "Hey, let's get Rachel."
Yeah.
Maybe. Nope. No other
And
backup. Nothing.
and I did love the scene where, okay, let's separate, and he's like, "Have you never seen a horror movie?"
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, we can
Okay.
talk. Well, no, actually, let's go ahead and talk about that now a
Yeah.
little bit.
Okay.
Um, we so yeah, they get down in the tunnels. Or Gar makes that comment about the horror movies. They split up,
Hmm.
and and Jason comes across Dr. Light, and just that again. I don't know if it's a combination of his arrogance or his eagerness to prove himself, or
Hmm.
both. But his ego maybe that he feels he can take Dr. Light down by himself,
Yeah.
and obviously that goes horribly wrong, and that kind of sets up the cliffhanger for next week's episode.
Now, I was happy that because at first Doctor Light,
Because we'll talk about Dr. Light and
yeah,
Deathstroke in another topic, but
yeah, I was a little happy. I was happy, not a little happy. I was happy to see Jason kind of not being totally wiped on the floor with it. I mean, that he showed he had a little skills.
right,
So I was glad to see that.
he kind of had the upper hand. Like Dr. Light got the upper hand first, and then Jason kind of rebounded,
Hmm.
and then Dr. Light just kind of laughed about it
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
Deathstroke showed up.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, it just went sideways for Jason.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let's talk about Rose for a bit.
Okay.
Okay, so obviously we thrown out the theory, and it's a pretty obvious theory in my opinion,
I think so. Yeah.
that Rose, Ravager, as she becomes in the comics, is the traitor in the Judas
Absolutely.
in this version of the Judas Contract storyline. For one thing, they've never cast Tara. So
Right.
if you're going to do Judas Contract, you better have a Tara, and if you
Absolutely.
don't have Tara, who you got to look at the next available person, and that's obviously Rose. If you notice, Rose is going through a lot of this. She's kind of trying to ingratiate herself more with
Yes.
the others. Like she
Hmm.
approaches, there's a scene where she approaches Rachel, and the two of them kind of form this like bad dads club,
Yes.
and share their experiences. And because the two of those characters, Rose Wilson and Raven, that's an interesting pairing. And they've
Yeah.
obviously got very horrible fathers,
Yeah.
and that makes for a good bonding.
And I liked in the original Judas Contract,
Right.
Tara and Gar had a thing,
Yeah.
which ended up breaking Gar's heart,
Right.
and Brad Meltzer's heart, because I know Brad listens to it.
Right.
So I like that there may not be a romance on this one,
Hmm.
but just a friendship. Yeah, I think that's what they're setting up. I thought all the training segments, if we go back a little bit, of watching the new Titans spar, with the blindfolds, and then Dick showing Rose he may have a little something, were well done.
Yeah. I think so. I think so. And that just like Dick gives her the eye patch for one thing.
Yes, right.
As a kind of way to like, okay, look, the bandage thing is getting kind of old. You might as well. We know your eyes healed up, so
Yeah.
you might as well wear the eye patch now. And obviously, that's one of the things that makes her more iconic, like the comic book, is that she
Mhm.
has that eye patch, just like her dad. And
Yes.
but yeah, she's starting to make inroads, and so obviously it seems like she's gathering intel for her father, Deathstroke,
Yeah.
about how to approach them. And obviously we know Deathstroke has a plan in motion, and obviously I think Rose is obviously part of that plan. But we'll see how it plays out. Rachel, Well, we're
Okay.
talking about
Sure.
Rachel. Let's get back to the soul self thing for a bit.
Okay.
We talked about last time that darkness, um, obviously, with the jewel in her forehead, it's a lingering reminder that hey, Trigon still has influence over her.
And I liked
But the soul self
um
seems to be kind of taking on um, control over her, or is at least a representation of that control.
so I'm gonna stop you and we're gonna go slightly off topic, and
Okay.
I promise we'll go right back. Seeing the special effects, do you not go, ooh, can we see a Starman Shade miniseries?
I
Because
I don't want a mini series. I want an ongoing series. I want a monthly I want to write that series. What are you talking about? I would kill for
well,
a Starman Jack Knight series with the shade in it. Yeah.
but the it looks like the Shade, the
Yes.
special effects, the way
That
Tony Harris used to
that
draw it.
that darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought of that. Went, oh, there we go. We can have the Shade can be a villain,
Yep.
and then Starman could come guest star. So anyway, I we're gonna have Star Girl, so we might see the Shade now that I think about
It's
it.
possible. It's
Oh, so
possible.
anyway,
Yes.
um, I I love that Rose brought up the bold choice, the jewel in your forehead, and him like that in my choice. Um, it- Rachel Raven continues to be a very interesting character.
Well, she's obviously very conflicted.
Yeah,
And
and
now she's
really,
even more conflicted because this darkness seems to be growing inside her.
yeah,
And
and
but she's not telling anybody about it.
Tegan Croft is just bringing it. I mean, she's wonderful in this role. So yeah, I'm really glad.
Yeah, and you notice even Gar is covering for her
Yes.
because Dick makes that one. There's that one scene where Dick asks Gar about Rachel,
Mhm.
and he goes, "Well, something going on in training. She seemed there was something off about her." And Gar is kind of shrugging his shoulders, doing the shrug shoulder emoji,
Yeah.
going, "I don't know, maybe, not sure."
Hmm.
But beats me. So
Yeah,
he's covering for her too, and obviously that's going to bite them at some point later on.
I think so.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it doesn't. All right, anything else about the New Titans before we move on?
Nope.
Okay, topic number three: excuse me, I keep calling him Faddei. Faddei and Corey.
Hmm.
So picking up on the cliffhanger where Corey gets tased by Faddei. From last time, we find out, oh, Faddei brought her to a really swanky hotel room and ordered room service. And apparently, these two have a history, as it turns out, on
Yeah.
Tamaran. So, what did you make of the big revelation that Corey and Faddei were involved on Tamaran?
So if this writing and acting wasn't so well done with the her taking breaks to talk to the Titans, let me put this another way. There was
Okay.
everything about this subplot you go, this is not needed. This is a waste of time. Why aren't we back to what's going on in San Francisco? But because of the acting, because of the writing, because of the phone calls with the Titans, I really liked this subplot. I enjoyed it. I did not feel like it would have been very easy to be a distraction and going, okay, get to the good stuff.
Right.
But
You're
I liked
interested.
his, yeah, I was interested. I liked his role. I liked his flirting. I liked her flirting. You could see she cares about him. You got a little bit to talk about her sister, and Corey rolled her eyes. I mean, there was a lot of, for us Titan comic fans, a nice little nods. But even if you were cold from this, you got very clear she doesn't want to go back. She's thinking this is a vacation, and here is someone who volunteered to go get her because he knew how stubborn she could be, and he's like, if anyone has a chance to get you back, It's me. What was your thoughts, Charles?
Well, it's interesting. Before I get into that, um, he does this, as it turns out, at his own peril, because
Yes.
apparently this is a gig where if he doesn't bring her back, he'll be sentenced to death
Yes.
for failure. Apparently,
Hmm.
so this is an all or nothing crapshoot, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Obviously, um, but I thought the relationship was interesting. This is something completely new, something we hadn't seen in the Titans comics. So
Hmm.
this is kind of like brand new territory, really. The idea that Corey had somebody on Tamaran, a love, and then came to Earth.
Hmm.
But apparently it makes for interesting drama. These two have a history. She was the royal princess. You know, he was the lowly palace guard or what have you.
Yeah.
Or as it turns out, it seems like, you know, what they call the Royal Protection Service. So essentially, it's kind of like
Hmm.
he's the Secret Service
Yeah.
for on Tamaran, to put it in United States government terms. You know,
Hmm.
the one that protects the president, the royal family, etc.
Yeah.
Or the first family in here
Yeah.
in the states.
Yeah.
So he's in charge of protecting her, and we find out from Corey that apparently on Tamaran it's a whole class system where someone like Corey wouldn't be allowed to marry someone common like
Right.
Faddei,
Yeah.
and she makes a point in going, well, here on Earth, you can do that. You can marry whomever you want.
Yeah.
And at least most people, right?
Yeah.
And depending on where you live. And, you know, he's trying to wrap his head around this because all he
Yeah.
can think about is, well, let's go back to Tamaran. But here
Yeah.
she is going, she's pretty adjusted and likes the idea of being on Earth. She likes the idea of being able to make her own decisions, as she tells him.
Hmm.
What to eat, what she can eat, what she wears, what have you, who she's with, and she's not eager, obviously, to give that up. And
Right.
so it's kind of like the star-crossed lovers kind of thing going
Yeah.
on here.
And that's an old story, but I liked it. I bought into it. Um,
The Starfire-crossed lovers.
yeah, he was very charming. Um, you could see she cares about him. There was a little,
Well, they had a one-night stand. It turns out,
yeah,
seeing apparently he slept with her at least once,
yeah,
as we find out.
hmm
But
yeah,
so there was at least something there.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he kind of tries to, like, there's a scene where they're on the street and she notices this necklace, and
hmm
he makes this point of going, well, that's obviously worthy for a princess. And then she makes some comment about having, like, well, maybe Faddei needs to prove himself. So he
yeah,
tries to do that by jamming his elbow into the window and taking the necklace.
yeah,
And at first she's going, well, didn't you read up on the laws on this planet? And but then shortly after that, though, she's kind of turned on by it.
oh yeah,
That he's doing the bad boy thing,
yes,
and she finds that a bit attractive,
hmm
or at least attracting her once again.
yeah.
So it's kind of interesting, I think.
I thought it was really well done. I thought, them sharing the meals,
Right.
having good wine, him making fun of they keep having to look at the, she keeps looking at her phone. I like her and Donna's. Oh, is that what we're calling it now? Because she thinks, Donna just thinks she's off on a booty call,
Right.
and of course, we know it's not. And then I love that Rachel is, I need you, and she says, well, I gotta go. And I just, once again, I'm a sucker for the family stuff,
Right. And that's
right?
where she makes it, because she was, it seems, it seemed like she was being talked into returning to Tamaran.
Yeah.
Like that Faddei had convinced her to go back with him.
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention, we find out that it's not her parents who want her back. It's her
Yeah.
sister,
Right.
Blackfire.
Yes.
So we get the nod to Commander, aka Blackfire,
Hmm.
Corey's sister,
Hmm.
and I think they're going to be setting Blackfire up as the big bad for season 3.
I would be okay with that.
I think we might end up the Titans going to space or whatever in season 3,
Yeah.
and we go to Tamaran. I'm going to put my claim on that prediction right now.
Okay. I like it.
For season 3. We'll see if it plays out, but
Okay.
obviously we'll
Good.
find out. But anyway, get back to the thing. So Blackfire wants her back on Tamaran, and she's ready to go. But
Hmm.
as it turns out, once she gets that call from Rachel, and Rachel's all like, "But I need you," and she says she kind of rethinks it. She tells Faddei at first, she goes, we're cool, don't worry, everything's good. Here's my ship.
Hmm.
Why don't you board first? And then she locks him inside her ship.
Yeah. I thought I
What do you
liked
think of that
that.
scene? You like that scene?
I was a little, come on, dude.
Yeah, I know. I
You
was
know,
like, how
yeah,
dumb are you? Some security
yeah,
guy. You should
yeah,
have you fell for that obvious ruse. Come on.
yeah.
But
So,
he is in love apparently.
hmm,
So
yes,
you do stupid things when you're
hmm,
in love.
yeah.
And
So yeah, I liked it.
it was good. All right. Anything else about Faddei and Corey before we move on?
Nope. Like I said, I thought that was really well done.
Okay. Topic number
Good.
4. Last topic. This is where we're going to talk about Dr. Light and Deathstroke. Kind of the odd couple of the supervillain set, as it turns out,
Hmm.
with Deathstroke being the Felix and Dr. Light being the Oscar Madison. Obviously,
Yes,
if you're familiar with the Odd Couple at all, Neil Simon's the Odd Couple.
absolutely.
Um, the Dr. Light basically hanging out at Deathstroke's home,
Hmm.
drinking his beer, and
Yeah,
doesn't just casually drink a beer. No, he's got to chug it all in one shot, and then let out this big obnoxious belch. And contrasting against Deathstroke, who is sitting calmly at a table, saying very little. And I love Esai Morales' portrayal of Slade Wilson. I
yeah,
really like it because it's so much like the original Deathstroke from the Wolfman and Perez era. Um, just kind of like looks over at him and saying nothing but looking very intimidating, in that kind of Batman way.
yes.
And it makes me wonder just like how long before Deathstroke kills Dr. Light. Because I can't think that Deathstroke is going to put up with that for very long. Because he seems really annoyed by him without saying
Uh,
anything.
oh, I totally agree. It's so cool. I was a fan. I really have liked um,
Esai
him
Morales.
in other, yeah, Esai and
Yeah.
in other things. So I think he adds a a depth to that character. Um, I don't know if I like the Doctor Light, having the all the
Yeah.
mechanics on that.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. So
Yeah,
so Dr. Light stages this whole plan to suck up a bunch of energy
yeah,
so that he can fight the Titans because he knows
yeah.
they're coming for him.
Hmm.
And so he goes to this like football stadium
Right.
and juices up, charges up,
Hmm.
and that brings a whole new take on the term juicing when it comes to
Yes.
professional sports, right?
Right.
Um, so he sucks up all this electrical energy, and then, but he comes in wearing this really homemade, low rent armor, like that presumably he built himself with scraps.
Yeah.
You know, like like somebody like he found a pile of junk in the corner and said, "Okay, I can make a thing out of this."
Yeah, and I
So
don't
it
know
looks it's
why.
really kind of cheap. So I'm wondering, is this like a prototype thing, and maybe we'll
Yeah,
get a proper Dr. Light suit at some point? I
I
hope
don't know,
so.
and I don't understand why he needs
Why the
the
helmet if
armor.
nothing else?
Yeah, why does he have? I mean, does he need this? You know, Tony Stark looking,
Because
you know, light
he's already got the
thing.
circuitry embedded in his arms.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't
So
get
is
that at
well,
all.
the only thing I think of is that with especially with the chess piece, maybe
Yeah.
it's something to help like draw in more energy.
Yeah, or to help direct it.
Or
That's
so,
the only thing I could think. But yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So um, at least the chess piece kind of makes sense. I don't get the helmet at all. I mean, I know it's traditionally Dr. Light has
Yeah.
that kind of fin like helmet
Yeah.
that he wears in the comics, but in this prototype stage, I have no idea why it's there.
Yeah, and
And it looks kind of cheesy and
I agree. I don't like the
really bad.
costume. Now, Deathstroke's costume looked very good.
Right. It's like we
I,
spent all our money on the Deathstroke costume, so
yeah.
what do you got left for the Dr. Light costume?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me go to True Value Hardware and
Mhm.
see what they've got left over.
Yeah. So, I agree. I just was like,
It's not a good look, dude.
yeah, it's not a good look, and I'm okay. Um, I mean, it's a minor nitpick, which is what we do here.
Right.
I'm wondering if I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's a minor thing, but it is something I would have liked a better costume.
It's a very fashion faux pas, in my opinion.
Yes, I agree. Yes,
You could be doing better.
Mhm.
Time to upgrade that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Step your game up, Dr. Light.
Yeah.
But so ultimately, Dr. Light confronts Jason. We talked about that already a little bit.
Yes.
Um, we talked about how he gets the upper hand, Jason gets the upper hand, and then Dr. Light, he's after being pummeled viciously by Jason,
Hmm.
Dr. Light just laughs because he
Yes.
knows that Deathstroke has his back.
Absolutely.
And Deathstroke shows up, looks very intimidating. So what did you think of that great shot, establishing shot of Esai in the Deathstroke armor at the end of the episode?
I loved it. I loved.
Looked
I
really good.
knew.
And you notice he had
I
that like he had a little targeting system in his that
yes.
in his eye that was missing,
Hmm.
at least as far as
And
the mask goes.
and I really. I knew we were about to get a. I was involved in the show, and so I had not. I did not have the um, screen showing what time it was.
Right.
So, but right when I saw that, I went, "Yep, that's our cliffhanger,"
Yep.
and it was. It was just really well done. I think it appears. I
Yes.
don't want to go too far on a limb, but it appears this show is going to do a really true to the comics adaptation of Deathstroke, and I'm excited about it.
You're all for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's kind of um, as we find out, uh, we know that Deathstroke has a plan, obviously.
Yeah.
And Dr. Light's plan is like, well, let's just go attack them and kill them.
Yeah.
And Deathstroke has something obviously more cerebral in mind.
Hmm.
And he's like, um, he says he wants to put them in crisis. And
Yes, I caught that. It was
yeah,
like, oh, crisis! I
yeah,
see what you did
yeah, I
there.
see what you did there. But he wants to see how they operate.
Yes.
He wants to figure out who commands, who follows, and
Hmm.
then he says to cull the herd, isolate the weak, and then the rest come to them.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Light is like, "Oh, you want to mind F them?
Hmm.
I'm cool with that, I guess."
Yeah.
But and then I'm sure at this point, Deathstroke is rolling his one eye at Dr.
Hmm.
Light, going, "Whatever,
Oh
dude."
yeah, absolutely. Yes, he's definitely rolling his one eye.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, you can't roll both eyes. So,
Right.
but anyway, all right. So we'll see where that goes next time. All right.
Hmm.
Um, any other things about this episode before we get into our favorite quotes?
Um, I can't think of anything.
All right. All right.
Okay.
Favorite lines? You have any?
No, I don't this time. I'm
Okay.
sorry, Charles.
Uh,
Though there was some good writing. I mean, the
I'm,
there
I'm gonna
was.
I'm gonna give you
Yeah,
this.
go ahead. You got it. Yes, absolutely.
Jesse's homework fail.
Yes.
All
Go
right.
ahead. So
All right.
share with me. I know you
Yeah,
have some good.
I wrote down a few ones.
Okay.
The lines weren't as good in this one. I think again that's the quality of the writing of the episode. I think
Hmm. Yeah.
overall, Corey had a good exchange with Faddei where she's wearing her cuffs
Hmm.
and she tells Faddei to remove them,
Yeah.
and Faddei goes, "A guy travels 20 million miles to give you a lift home, and you want to get royal on me?"
That was good.
Yeah, and then Rose and Dick have an exchange where she finally tells Dick about what she was doing going after Deathstroke.
Hmm.
And Rose goes, "I heard he was back in town, so I went to take care of my business." And Dick goes, "It didn't go so well."
Hmm.
And Rose says, "I still have one good eye left,"
Yeah, that was a good line.
showing
Yes.
her defiance a little bit. I like that. Another eye joke, this time from Deathstroke and Dr. Light. So Deathstroke says, "I'm glad we see eye to eye on this matter." And Dr. Light goes, "Well, given that you've only got one, we effing better, right?" And then he starts laughing and then pauses. And like when Deathstroke's not laughing around with him, he goes, "That was a joke."
Yeah.
And Deathstroke says, with perfect timing, "I see that." I see what you did there,
Yes.
Slade.
Yes, indeed.
Dick and Donna have a good exchange. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Dick was talking, says, "That was a long time ago. Everything's changed. I've changed." And Donna says, "Changed how? You burned the suit. You're not Robin anymore. So what now? You're Dick Grayson camp counselor?"
That was a good line.
It was a good line. And then I love this kind of put down of Jason, where Jason sees that the other original Titans are about to leave, and he jumps right in costume, going, "What? We're on the move?" And Hank goes, "Yeah, to Omaha. We'll drop you off at the bus station."
Ha ha ha.
So good little smackdown from Hank on that
Yeah.
one. I like that. All right, so what's your rating for this one?
So, like I said, not a big down, but I'm only gonna give it 8 out of 10 eye patches.
Ooh, very good. I am in sync with you on this one.
Okay.
I also give it 8 out of 10, but I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 lassoed motorcycles
That was so
because
cool.
in one of the highlights of this episode was Donna taking Dr. Light down by lassoing a motorcycle and smacking him with a motorcycle.
That was
And
awesome.
I'm thinking, did you just crush his spine with that? Because it's a motorcycle, it's heavy.
Hmm.
But Dr. Light just kind of shrugs it off.
Yeah.
So no big deal, apparently. But I thought that was rather cool to see her just lasso that thing and swing it around and smack him with the motorcycle.
Oh, it was so good.
That was great. I like that a lot. All right, Titans Tower news. Uh, we just got a little bit of news, nothing big. If you've been online, you know that there is some bootleg screenshots of filming. We get to see the Nightwing costume. So we know there is going to be a Nightwing costume, you guys, and it looks pretty good. Although
Yeah.
all we've seen so far are like blurry photos and whatnot. Oh, you guys got to be a lot better at taking these behind the scenes photos.
Yeah.
You can't give me anything better, but
I did like the Aqualad
yeah,
photo they got as a preview for the next
yeah,
episode.
yeah, yeah.
It
That's
looks like, yeah.
yeah. That was. I mean, that's. But yeah, and that's. And then on that same subject, we got the episode titles for the next few episodes,
Hmm.
which of course are their electric titles that just really sing as always. So
Let's sing the body electric.
so next week's episode is of course Aqualad.
Okay.
That's the title because hey, it features Aqualad, so we're probably going to get the Aqualad story. The one after that is Deathstroke. So maybe that's the Deathstroke origin episode that we were promised.
Okay.
And finally, this will be the sixth episode of Titan Season 2, Connor, which
Okay.
of
So we
course,
should get.
so we get Superboy presumably introduced with Titans Episode 6.
So one thing you
Uh,
have to embrace, Charles.
yes.
Um, they have a shtick, and they're sticking to it.
Yes, they are.
I mean,
For better or worse, and it's mostly worse.
yeah. But I kind of embrace the fact that, like, we're not going to waste any creativity in doing puns, using, Sting or Bruce Springsteen title songs. We're just going to be Captain Obvious, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I mean, it's super generic.
I'm just waiting for episode 8.
Yeah.
Rose betrays Titans.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just like, well, that would be called betrayal. Or,
Yeah.
something, that's just very,
Yeah, exactly.
the minimalism here is just way too strong. Put a little effort into these things, guys. Just a little
Fair
bit
enough.
more.
No, I think you have a
Oh my gosh.
a valid, concern.
So the subject should not be the title. Let's just put it that way. All right. At least not for every single episode.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We didn't get any Tell It to Titan Talk news this week. So I was a little disappointed about that. So please write to us at titantalkcast@gmail.com. That's titantalkcast@gmail.com. We definitely would love to hear from you, so we could let us know what you're thinking about Titan Season 2. Obviously, we are enjoying it a lot better than we did Titan Season 1. You guys seem to be enjoying it just as much, so let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. We would.
We'd love to read your emails and whatnot, or your comments. You can also reach us on Twitter at Titan Talk Cast, or on Facebook at Titan Talk, the Titans Podcast. We definitely would love it if you liked and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. That would be great because it helps raise the social profile awareness and all their algorithms. So we need your help. And,
Absolutely.
If nothing else, it helps us communicate when things happen, like any Titans news comes out. We can share that along with you guys, or news about our episodes or what have you. So if you're not doing that already, we definitely appreciate it. Jesse, where can they reach you?
So you can reach me on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW. I am on Facebook at Jesse Jackson in Louisville, Texas. You can hear me talk about Doctor Who about once a month with Charles. The other weeks of the month, Charles is having guest companions on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Yes, coming up, we're going to be talking some Big Finish episodes. I'm excited about that. And you can hear me on Set Lustig Bruce, the Bruce Springsteen podcast. Depending on when Charles posts this.
Hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully on Monday. What is it? September
23rd.
23rd. All right.
Yes. So it will be, that is Bruce Springsteen's 70th birthday. And over the past month and a half, I have been collecting voicemails. And so even if you're not a Bruce Springsteen fan, I recommend you going to Set Lusting Bruce, download the episode. We have over 80 different people from around the world, 14 different countries, leaving messages about wishing Bruce happy birthday and telling what his music meant to him, including one of my favorite podcast partners. Contributed. So yeah. So you should listen to nothing else to hear that.
I hate that guy. No,
we love that guy. So Charles, when you and Zan Sprouse are not going to midnight movies, I understand you guys do a podcast. Talk to me a little bit about it and your other podcast.
All right. Well, first let me mention that, of course, you can reach me on Twitter at Charles Skaggs, or Facebook, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, or Instagram at Charles Skaggs. We definitely appreciate that. So at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram. Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. And my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. and hot.
Damn good coffee and hot. Where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Titan Talk. All kinds of Titans news, Doom Patrol news, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news, news of my other podcasts that I do for Southgate Media, including the aforementioned Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse. We're talking about all things Twin Peaks and David Lynch. And the Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast I do with Jesse, where we talk about all things Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, Big Finish, and more. We definitely appreciate that if you check those out. And also the Phantom Zone podcast, where Jesse and I recently talked about Krypton and Season 2 and did our Season 1 wrap-up of the Amazon Prime video series, The Boys, based on the Dynamite Entertainment comic by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. So
Absolutely.
Please check that out. And maybe if we start watching Watchmen and really get into it, we might want to talk about that somewhere.
Oh, I need to. We need to give a little love to one of our favorite listeners, DJ Nick.
Yes, we do.
He has a brand new podcast where he is having different guest contributors join him and talk about a superhero movie of their choice. And his inaugural, very first episode featured Charles Skaggs talking about that many would argue, and I would agree, the greatest superhero movie of all times, Superman.
Yeah, the 1978 Superman movie. DJ Nick, who you've heard here on Titan Talk during our season wrap-up specials, and hopefully we'll have him back for Titan Season 2 wrap-up. He started a new podcast. It's called Happiness in Darkness. And it's basically a superhero movie podcast about where he brings somebody on, and he and that somebody, in this case, this first episode, yours truly, sit down and talk about one of their favorite all-time superhero movies. My all-time favorite superhero movie, and it was the first episode, so I thought we had to talk about the 1978 Superman movie starring Christopher Reeve, Gene Hackman, Mario Kidder, and Marlon Brando. So, big fan of that movie. It essentially set the tone for what to do with a superhero movie on the big screen that wasn't super campy and it was actual film. So, had a lot of fun with that. I'm so glad that Nick let me talk about Superman. I could talk about the 1978 Superman movie all day. But we just kept it to roughly an hour and a half, and had a lot of fun. And I hope you check it out.
Yeah, I go listen. But I was so happy, Charles.
I hope I did a good job.
You did a great job, but you mentioned my favorite moment, and I think you were not alone in that. When Clark is in Lois's apartment,
right?
And when Christopher Reeve takes off his glasses, he's Superman, and then when he puts it back on, he's Clark Kent. And if anyone ever said this is stupid, no one, just
the glasses,
glass,
yeah,
you show that is truly one of, I think, the most iconic.
The physical performance that Reeve does, where he's kind of hunched over his Clark, and then he stands straight up and looks more like a completely different person once those glasses are off.
Yeah, I love that. It is just amazing. And it just so happens that I am joining DJ Nick as we record this today to talk about Watchmen.
Which gets us back to the Watchmen thing, which is what triggered this whole thing. Yes.
Yeah, it did. And it is, I don't know if it's my favorite superhero movie.
Right.
I think Superman would be, I remember, and we should just have another episode about you and I talking about it.
Yeah.
But Watchmen was so anticipated. And as I'm rewatching it, there's so much, and we'll talk about this in the episode, but there is a special place in that movie in my heart, and so I'm excited to talk about Nick today.
Yeah, it's a great time to talk about it, because with the new HBO series that's set 30 years down the road, what better time? and
Yeah,
uh, and it's a great time for a
have
rewatch. Yeah.
we may have to find time to talk Watchmen. Charles. Yeah, we may have to talk that TV series.
Now you're
So
now you
anyway,
now you're kind of getting in the mood. All right.
yes, I did.
So everybody, come on back next time for episode 40. We're getting up there. Episode 40 of Titan Talk, where we're going to talk Aqualad.
Yes.
And I tried to get Michael McAllister, who works at DC Comics, longtime fellow Titan talker of ours, to talk about Aqualad with us. Sadly, his bosses at DC Comics, apparently he would have to jump through a lot of corporate hoops to make that
Oh.
happen. Although he wants to. He told me he wants to, but apparently to clear him to do this
Hmm.
would take an act of Congress, and so unfortunately that's not going to happen. But he's all for us talking about it, and and uh, and I look forward to us reviewing Aqualad next week. So hopefully he'll enjoy it. So
Yeah, boy, I that's a surprise for me. You had not told me that.
yeah,
And
I was trying to make that a surprise, but
yeah,
unfortunately I don't
yeah,
think it's going to work out.
that would be great. We still need to get George Gustine on the show and a
Christina's,
couple
yeah,
others.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, and
But
I
everybody, yeah.
yeah, I would. Leah would have loved to have been on this
I
episode.
know, yeah.
Next week's
One of our
episode.
dear departed friends, Leah Dizia. We
Yeah,
miss you terribly.
we will.
Huge
She will
Aqualad
be
fan,
discussed.
so we might have to dedicate next week's episode to her memory next week.
Absolutely.
So everybody, come on back. Episode 40, Aqualad. It's going to be a big one. We're presumably going to find out how Aqualad is killed by Deathstroke. What happens there? What broke up the original Titans? Should be a big one. So come on back next time. Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. Goodbye, everybody.